Hey friends, today I want to point out another part of a rule of life that I think is particularly important in a season of isolation. It's the discipline of having what the ancients called spiritual friendships. Now we all know that we need community. Even those of us who were kind of enjoying this season at first are now getting tired of it. And we need different types of community for different reasons. But what kind of community is really essential to thriving? For sure, we need all kinds of interactions, including those casual ones. But one thing that I've noticed is that sometimes in the multitude of those casual interactions, I actually cover over the fact that I need deeper friendships where I'm known not just face to face, but soul to soul. And in a season where those casual interactions have been stripped away in large measure, I realize that need even more acutely and have an opportunity to dive into it. Aelred of Rievaulx wrote the classic Christian text on spiritual friendship, and it's helpfully titled Spiritual Friendship. And he opens it this way. He says, "Here we are, you and I hope a third, Christ, is in our midst." A spiritual friendship is one where we sense Christ is present in the other person's presence, where Christ uses the voice of another to help us hear his voice. I think you can recognize these types of friendships by two marks. The first is transparency. As long as we are putting on a mask and not being our true selves, we are not actually present in a relationship. We are standing part, play acting, putting on a show. But when we can feel safe enough to reveal our true, authentic selves, then we actually become present and can begin to truly enjoy the presence of others, including the presence of Christ, who meets us through the other. We cannot meet Christ or another without being honest. But transparency isn't the final goal. Vulnerability is. And they're not the same thing. I like to define vulnerability as not only the willingness to let someone see your reality, but to join you in it. To not just show them your hopes and your hurts, but to invite them into those sacred spaces. See, when you're vulnerable, you're not just naming your weaknesses. You're inviting others to dwell in those weaknesses with you. And that's terrifying because it leaves you open to attack. But the irony is that vulnerability leaves you open to both attack and healing. Taking off the armor leaves room for the sword and the scalpel, leaves room for the punch and the embrace. That's why it's imperative that a spiritual friend be truly a safe person, one who treats you as Christ would treat you, with both truth and grace. And all of us have experienced relationships that were not like that. And they've left us hurt and not really willing to open up in the same ways. But the only way to find out if someone is safe is to take a risk. To trust that Christ may indeed want to meet you through this other person. So I encourage you to choose someone that you have found trustworthy in the smaller things and to take a risk. Don't just let them know how you're doing. Invite them into how you're doing. Not just, this is how I'm doing, doesn't this stink? But also, this is how I'm doing, and it's hard, and I'm not sure where to go from here. What do you think? In that vulnerability, you will not only become more present to them, you will be also open to the presence of Christ that meets you through them.